Hey everyone, welcome back to another devlog for WizardChess, the deck building chess-like game in development by 2PM Studios, aka me, Ben, and my co-developer Ricky. We've got a lot to tell you about from this last month of development, so let's just get into it. I'm going to try and ignore the fact that I recorded this once before and then OBS just didn't save it, so hopefully you get the condensed version this time. Anyway, this is, once again, WizardChess. This is Devlog 21, version 0.8.5, and it is November right now. I want to do a little bit of my requisite shilling. The game is available in early access on Steam, so if a deck building chess-like sounds cool to you, maybe go and have a look at it now. You could wishlist it, you could buy it, and if you like it, you could leave a positive review, because that really helps us. This number keeps creeping up, and it really does help with playing the Steam algorithm game. If you do check the game out and there's something about it that makes you feel like it's not really time to give it a positive review right now, please come to our Discord and chat with me about it. I always love to talk about game stuff, just full stop, but I'd love to know how we could make it fun for literally anyone who's interested. So, yeah. Before we get into the actual content, let's talk about the framing. So version 0.8.5 is getting towards that magic 1.0 number, so to get there, the game has to end, and this is something we haven't really had to tackle at this point on this project, right? Like, we started in 2019, I think, and this has been part-time development, but we're finally starting to see the shape of what the full thing will look like. So what's that going to mean? We have to finish the bosses. Oh, my head is over the top of my presentation. That's okay. You know what Arabella looks like, and you'll find out in a bit. So we've unlocked, in this latest patch, we are starting to unlock the highest ranks for these bosses. So that's Cormag, rank A, B, and C. You can now reach all of these. You can reach Hiss's rank C, and you've always been able to reach Arabella's rank C since she went in the game, but we've made some big changes to it. I'm going to be walking through all the different parts of this in a sec, so we'll keep going. This is the overview for now. So with those new ranks, we've also introduced new units. There's the Arbalest, unlocked by beating Cormag at rank C, the Zealot, unlocked by beating Cormag at rank B, and the Knave, unlocked by beating Hiss at rank C. We're about to go through all these too. And then the final thing we've been doing recently is just, I mean, honestly, it should just say balance. Like, this slide could just be one word and just balance in massive letters. But yeah, quests and perks have been the thing I've been thinking about, but we will talk a bit about balance in general. The Arbalest. So, what does the Arbalest do? They're ranged units that cannot move. They fire projectiles at all enemies at an exact range from them. As an action, they can change the target range, and the Arbalest will automatically attack up to skill enemies at that range, starting with the enemies closest to the target. Now, while I was talking about that, it happened in the background, where I can aim at this unit. These two are in the same radius as I'm doing this scrubbing process, so the pink spots are where you can aim, just like any unit that can target, and the orange ring is where you will be watching with the Arbalest. So here, we select both the lion and this gnome down here. So, 1, 2, there we go. And you can use this to do, as you saw here, multiple attacks. Multiple attacks are something that very few units in the game can currently pull off at range, so the Arbalest is a cool new verb, I guess, in your vocabulary, and it lets you set up some pretty interesting situations where you can defend regions of the board, set traps, push enemies into them, etc. It's like a more flexible archer in some ways, but it still can't move, still can't melee attack, so how much flexibility can you really get? But I really like this one. So as I said, you get this from beating Cormag on rank C, and it will be in your party when you face rank B as one of the starting units. Next, we have the Zealot, this guy with the spear overhead. So, Zealots are utility units that bless allies for defeating enemies and curse enemies for defeating allies. So they're a bit like the cleric in this way. They can mark a unit for skill turns, and if that marked enemy dies, all attackers get an upgrade. If the marked ally dies, all attackers get a downgrade instead. In either case, the Zealot loses one skill and the stat changes are permanent. So it can permanently weaken enemies, which isn't as important as the fact it can permanently strengthen allies. We saw this in this room already while I was talking, where here we go. I marked this unit with the Zealot, and then if I attack it to kill it with the Archer and the Merc, they both get a stat upgrade, and this unit loses one skill. So there's a tempo element here. You can accelerate your run using the Zealot, but then it runs out of skill. But any stat upgrades, any units that can give additional skill, etc., any traits, they can all enable this ability again. So there's some really cool like engines you can build here to really spiral out of control. Possibly in a way that will break the game's balance. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But for now, it's just a lot of fun. I think it's really unique being able to decide, like, I want to make a suboptimal move right now so I can earn a permanent stat upgrade mid-combat. Those kinds of decisions make for interesting high-level trade-offs in the run. Like, especially at the start where you might play riskier to get a better chance of takeoff. This is a great unit for you risk takers, which is me when I play. Next, we have the Knave. So, did I mention this? The Zealot will be unlocked by beating Cormag on rank B and will be in the party for facing Cormag on rank A. The Knave, which is the next one we're talking about, is unlocked by beating Hiss on rank C and will be in the party on rank B, but you can't go to rank B yet. Sorry, that's coming soon. The Knave. Knaves are trickster units that deploy decoys. When the decoy is destroyed, the Knave's mirth makes them stronger. So, watch this happen here. I move, I spawn a little decoy, and amusingly, this one is called Punch the Decoy, which is just like excellent naming random chance there. So you can see that kind of setup made the Knave stronger, and this is kind of the idea, is that the Knave can hop out of the way of danger, trick an enemy into coming to attack the decoy they leave behind, gain some strength, and then maybe come back and defeat that same enemy or set a trap. So this is keeping in the theme of the units for these higher ranks, which is that we want more things that allow you to manipulate the board, to control other units, to change the way that like other mechanics work. This is the dream of this game. Each new unit, each new mechanic, etc. should recontextualize all of the other units and mechanics in the game. And that's what a design like the Knave is aiming for, is something that fits with the desert and the kind of problems you face there, gives you new ways to control and manipulate your allies and the enemies, and lets you discover cool new synergies as a result. There's a lot to designing things this way, and I'd love to do a whole video talking about just that, and maybe I will one day, but there's not this video. Do let me know if you'd like to hear more about this, like, how did we choose to design it this way kind of stuff. It doesn't really fit in a 20 minute if I'm lucky, devlog, but it will fit in a presentation about just that alone. We can see here, my decoy died, which buffed up my Knave. I very nearly lost my bard in this fight, but we made it out. Nice. Cool. So that's the three new units, the Arbalest, the Zealot, and the Knave, but we also have the bosses themselves. So for Cormag, for C, B, and A, and for Hiss on C, their fights are really the same, quote-unquote, as the other difficulty levels right now, except just harder, like as in all the enemies will be harder and the AI will be a bit smarter, but we need to build out custom abilities for those fights still. The units are the main thing on those ranks, and we're trying to settle in to the difficulty for C, B, and A, and what the run should be like before we nail the boss, except in the case of Arabella, where we need to get the sort of bookend in place of what the final boss looks like, and we've been doing that. So this is the new idea for the Arabella fight. On rank C, you will see this if you make it to her now. She basically will switch elements based on this Wheel of Fortune over here, and that will determine what abilities she has. So she's rotating element throughout the fight, using different spells, and sort of a support and interference boss in terms of how she interfaces with you. She isn't trying to attack you directly, she has 0 attack, in fact. You can see on this video, the way it works is every few turns she will rotate the Wheel of Fortune like this, and then everything will be different. And I mainly wanted to show off my rain effects that I did here. I hope that comes through on the video okay. It's pretty subtle, but it's moody. It's cool being able to use some of these AAA Unity features for this dinky little game. So this is not the full extent of what this fight will be. Ranks B and A for Arabella will bring more, but it's already really fun playing with the spells on this. I'm not going to spoil any of it for you. This is how I often do these devlogs. I'm not going to tell you how this fight works and how to beat it. You need to go and work this out for yourself. Quick note just to say, the cursed deals in the Fey biome, these didn't used to have any background in the room, and I've added one. This is really just a quick note to be like, look at me, I made a nice room. But we've got the we've got the pink and the blue here matching up to these rivers to help you understand there's some kind of choice being made, I guess. And just because I can tell you this because it's the devlog, these trees and things are all procedurally generated in the background, how they're laid out. They'll be different each time. You'll almost never be able to tell, but that's a little secret for you and me to know, I guess. The shop also got a little bit of a glow up here where Cloaky's desk now has cards on it, a little WizardChess board, etc. Just to put some visual interest in. A little ice cream here. The units actually also have ice cream when they're over here on the tables. This is a riff on an earlier version of the game where the shop was going to be the tavern and they would all eat ice cream in it. It's a little Easter egg from back in like 2020 for anyone who's followed that long. The main change we've made to the shop on this update, is that we previously had 3 walls, which were the quest wall, the unit wall, and then there was an upgrade wall where we had a stat upgrade, and a trait. We've expanded this a huge amount here, where there's a trait wall now with 3 traits and an upgrade wall with 4 upgrades. Long story short, I thought there were not enough options for you to actually be able to make the decisions you needed to make during the run. And we've reached a point now where you can actually be quite deliberate in what you're trying to do with your party. But if you just don't get the trait or the upgrade or whatever you're looking for in the shop, then you're not going to be able to do the cool thing. And I want to give people more chances to discover cool synergies by finding more traits that they can choose from and more upgrades to choose from. We've also increased the pool of upgrades that can appear here at higher difficulties to more than single stat upgrades. Like they might upgrade 2 stats or 3 stats or a particular unit type or element type. This has probably changed the balance of the game quite a lot, but it makes you have big numbers, which is a really fun part of video games. Okay, there's just a quick note to say that the perks and the quests have been filled out quite a bit more as part of this as well. We've got a whole bunch of new pairings, and the way that this works is that the quests are defined separately to the perks and they get paired up at runtime, so the options multiply off each other as we add more of these, and we added quite a few more. There's still a lot more to do here, but hopefully you'll see some fresh entries and you're not getting the same quest, same perk every shop. I know how annoying that can be because I play this game a lot too. Oh yeah, I thought I would take a brief moment here to just show how the shop actually works, quote unquote, from a game point of view. Like most of the game we have this zoomed out, orthographic isometric camera, but we do this first person thing here, and I just think it's kind of cool seeing behind the scenes how the sausage is made, like very Paper Mario, watching everyone turn to face the camera. And yeah, we never intended to have these kinds of experiences in the game when we started making it, but it just turns out that if you do 3D, then you can do all this stuff later on, and it turns out to be just the only punishment is that you feature creeped your game into taking longer to finish. Cool. So this is connected to the shop. Let me just go back for a sec. So one thing I wanted to touch on is what does it mean to balance this game? This is a little bit of a digression, so feel free to skip ahead if you don't want to talk about technical stuff. I'm going to do some codey stuff here, but do you see these 3 units, the 3 types? They have 3 different prices and they have different stats that they will appear within the shop. And we're trying to make these automatically be relevant to where you're at in the game. And this is a really challenging problem in game design, full stop, I would say, to do this kind of intelligent difficulty. And I have very strong feelings that it is done wrong in most games. So prepare for me to get on my high horse here. The first thing is that if you scale everything based off the contents of your party or the strength of your character in a normal roguelike kind of run, then you get this effect where the enemies are getting stronger at the exact same pace as you, such that you achieve nothing at any point during the run. You won't actually notice that you have an advantage over the enemies if their defense goes up 5 when your attack goes up 5. And yeah, there are ways of introducing a bit of a fudge factor or some rubber banding there, but I think the whole principle is flawed because we don't want you to have the same level of difficulty at all times. We want it to actually get harder in a way that can be unpredictable, well, not unpredictable, but hard for you to overcome. So here, the 3 different shop archetypes we were looking at before, these 3 different scaling patterns, we're not going to look at these functions here. I actually wanted to talk about the price as well. If you look at how arbitrary some of this maths looks, that's because it is, and we are just working out, okay, for this thing, this unit in the shop in this spot, what are the parameters about the player's play that should affect how strong this unit is? So for this, one of the units, the price scales with how many encounters you've done. One is how many upgrades approximately have your units actually received, and then one is just 6 all the time. Surprisingly, this number works. I wouldn't have believed it, but it's still working. The underlying level one deeper than this thing we're talking about is the difficulty level concept we have in the game. So the difficulty level is this the God number, I guess, that every system uses to determine how hard things should be right now. And the short version is that it's actually pretty simple. We use an S-curve, which if you don't know what that looks like, I'm going to draw in the camera thing with my finger. It starts slow, comes up, and then tapers off again like that. So you might have seen this on adoption curves for technologies, for example. Lots of resource things have this in games as well. we use an S-curve for the difficulty, but we also use it for lots of other parameters. So in this one, you can actually see we have an S-curve here that takes in what rank you're playing from J to A, and then up to a value of 48 here, a magic number, we scale up using that rank, using an S-curve to say the base rank factor. Then we use that number again as the maximum value on an S-curve here, and we scale that one based on how many encounters you have done in the run. So this was dialed in by hand, the factors here for K and X0, but basically there is a platonic ideal of a run in terms of the progression of your scaling, where you do a couple encounters, get some money, go to shops, get like stronger units, get more money, stronger units, then you use most of the encounters on the board and you've got less things available to you. The S-curve matches this curve that the run has. So naturally, this kind of makes sense that you would notice it ticking up in difficulty once you've sort of taken off a little bit. And then once it hits maximum difficulty, it kind of tapers off from there and doesn't keep going exponentially up. Because it's not fun to enter a room where the units are all twice the attack that you have in defense. You'll just lose. It's not actually difficult, it's impossible, which is a really different kind of design situation. I know I'm just talking over code here, but I hope this is shedding some light on how complicated the thinking actually gets to how you scale a game like this. The thing we've stayed strong on is that the strongest factor is the number of encounters you have completed. And the reason for that, I believe very strongly in this idea in game design, is that players should have control over the things that happen to them, except when that's impossible. So that's like a very like caveat moment there, but you can choose if you want to go to more encounters in our game, or if you want to speedrun it to the boss, and there is a complicated trade-off of knowing, do I want to risk losing a unit to earn more money to be able to go to the shop, or maybe find a shop by exposing an encounter, right? You need to be thinking about this as the player, and you'll notice these sharp, like, tick up of difficulty at these high ranks and be like, oh, I should probably go to the boss soon because, like, I'm not going to be able to tolerate much more of this difficulty increase. This is part of the way I want players to strategize. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little digression. If you didn't, sorry, you can skip ahead this whole time. And if you'd like to hear me talk more about this part of game design, like specifically how to get in there and do these technical design problems and how we think of how to do this, I'd love to talk more about that. It's just not the job of these videos, but let me know in the comments or on Discord if you'd like to see more of that. So that brings us to the major changes. So that's the end of the major changes. There is a full changelog in the build and on Steam. You can read this. I would just play the game and experience it if I were you. I'm not biased at all. Just give me money. And then after this, what are we doing next, right? That's the big chapter. So I've sort of talked a bunch about this already, so I won't go too deep into it, but Fey Queen, rank ABC, Cormac, rank ABC, Hiss, rank ABC. All these need to happen. We need to build the mechanics for the fights. We have lots of ideas. We just need to sit down and do it. The actual runs through the biomes on rank A, B, and C I'm really happy with. We just have to have the bosses be the right capstone experience for that. And along with that, like I said, while we're doing those major pieces, we're just playing the game a lot and dialing in the upgrade economy, the Vim economy, and the general difficulty and balance. So to what I was saying before, that involves twiddling a lot of random numbers and playing the game a bunch, but that's kind of a welcome change sometimes. Sometimes it's very difficult. The thing that's coming up sort of after this wave peaks, crests is the word I'm looking for, is synergy. And what this means to me here is that we've got a big pool of stuff in the game, right? Like, you keep unlocking traits, you get more quests, more perks, blah, blah, blah. But something that happens in games like The Binding of Isaac is that as you fill out this initial pool, it gets diluted and it gets less likely that you will find any given item in it, which starts to mean that most of what you see is often irrelevant to your build and hard for you to build something useful with. Sometimes you get a creative choice through that, which is cool, but I mean, if you've played Modern Binding of Isaac, you know it's not always the case as well. What we're thinking about in terms of synergy for this game is that there will be quests, perks, traits, and they will be allocated in some way to pools based on rank and biome and maybe what units you have in your party or special conditions you satisfy on your run, so that the types of challenges you're facing, types of maps you're finding yourself on, types of enemies you're up against, the types of units you have, we will know this information and can help cater the quests and perks and traits to suit that and help you build something really interesting. That's a big pie in the sky idea right now, but we do have lots of concrete things we've brainstormed on how to do this, and I think it will make a huge difference when we get to start doing this chapter of work. I'm very excited for it. So stay tuned for that. I think that's going to bring us to the end. Yep. So if you enjoyed this presentation, please consider subscribing for more. I do these about every month. We release a patch about every month at the moment, but leading up to release, we may shake things up a bit. Maybe I'll do some different video formats. Maybe we'll do more frequent patches. Who knows? I'm keeping it up in the air. If you like the look of the game or you want to keep up to date with it, you can follow it on Steam, wishlist it on Steam. You can buy it on Steam and try it out. And you can join the Discord, which will give you access to me and asking me questions and telling me about all the problems with the game. But also, I post a devlog feed on there of all of the work in progress images and things that are up in the air, and like you can actually have a chance to shape the direction of the game if you come in here and talk with me about it. So please consider doing that because it's fun when people do. There's links in the description, QR codes here. You can find us on Twitter as well, at WizardChess with an underscore, at VivaVault is me, at 2PM Studios is the studio. But I think that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for hanging out to the end, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.